So hi everyone and welcome to Press Loft's Trend Report for 2026. I'm Nikki Snell, the founder of Press Loft, and I'm here today with Amy Peelan, who is our marketing assistant and looks after all things trends on the platform. So before we kick off with our 15 trends today, I'm going to explain a little bit about how we actually find and curate our trends. And we have lots of different data points that we use that we're really lucky to have at our fingertips. And there's two different types of trend reports that we do. So we do two big ones a year. So this one here for the following year. And then we do one around May, June time. And that's for all of our Christmas trends. And then every week, Amy and the team do around about 3 trends as well. And you can sign up for those on our website on the trends page for free. So the way that we curate these is using 20 years of media search data, which is one of our first big data points. And these help us see big historical patterns of changes and shifts and sort of macro style trends. And that might be a growing interest in sustainable products or maybe eco-conscious products on a deeper level. And then it's a move from things like minimalism to maximalism and now more individualism. And then we look at revivals of previous eras, so the 80s or the 90s or the noughties as we're seeing. And then we see very seasonal media trends. And these are very much used in our weekly trend roundup. So things like gifting periods and color patterns. So we'll see pastels really getting loads of downloads for the spring issues. And then we curate those and push them out to inspire media and give them a ready-made load of products to feature. And we also have shorter term search data, which informs these weekly trends. So we might see spot searches and spikes in searches and popularity, say Pantone Color of the Year, for example, which was out last week. And then we see clusters of related search topics start to emerge. So things like last year, browns were everywhere. So we saw browns and coffees and mochas really booming in popularity. And then we'll see brand new niche terms. And that really is something like the cores that we saw a lot of. So cottage core, fairy core. What were the other ones, Amy? There were loads of cores.
Fisherman core last year, which was quite fun. But yeah, cottage core is one that comes up time and time again because people are looking for quite a fun little thing. But usually cores are the best way to describe those really niche aesthetics that are rising to the surface.
Yeah, and these newly emerging terms are wonderful as hooks, both for press releases and for articles. So we really look for these terms that come through on the site. And then we also look at the products that are coming onto the market. So those clients that add those products nice and early, we look at patterns and similarities and trends between them to help inform what's going to be in the shops and therefore what the media will be most likely to want to write about. And then, Amy, I know you go on to do much wider industry research to help inform the bigger trend reports like the one today. So things like looking at thought leaders, looking at fashion shows, looking at big social influencers. And you also mentioned Pinterest trends is really, really powerful as well and really informative. So all of those come together and then we present our trend report or our weekly trends. And how impactful are our trends? Well, actually, we get a ton of media activity on our trends pages. So this last year, we've had 16,000 product images downloaded from those trend pages that we do. And that's up 25% on the year before. So it impacts what's very much going into the press, as you can see here. It's so much so, it's really growing in popularity that we're actually going to be launching a whole range of other products for media in the next year to help really inform these trends on a more granular level. So keep an eye out for that. And we're really excited with what's coming there. So with no further ado, Amy, would you like to kick off with the first of the color trends?
Yes. So first up on our list for the year ahead, we have caramel, which is one of our key color picks for this particular roundup. We've been watching this gradual move towards warmer, more comforting neutrals for a while now, and this definitely feels like the natural next step of that evolution. So earlier in the autumn-winter 25 season, we saw a lot of deeper coffee tones gaining traction, and then way back to the start of the year, we would have seen beiges still having a lot of influence, but caramel sits really nicely between those two and has a bit more of a sunny undertone, which brings warmth and richness without ever feeling too intense. So it's a color that really works with creams, greens, warm woods, and brass accents in interiors to make a space that feels comforting yet still really sophisticated. But it really shines in fashion and accessories too. So things like structured bags, tailored blazers, or even leather and suede jackets that have a bit of a vintage elements to it, but never so dated. It still feels quite contemporary. And it's definitely one of those shades that consumers are actively seeking at the minute. It's a piece that feels thoughtful and grounded rather than purely trend driven. Caramel is one of those colors that has a lot of staying power. So it makes it a smart choice for brands who are maybe thinking of long-term core products that they want to add to their offering. Plus, it's the kind of color that photographs beautifully within natural light. So we expect to see a lot of caramel-led stories throughout 2026.
Lovely.
And then next up we have Antique Rose, which brings a bit of a softer, more nostalgic take on pink for the year ahead. So obviously over the last couple of years, we had a lot of love for more Barbie tones. But with this, we're seeing a collective shift towards pinks that feel a little more lived in rather than loud and overtly bold. So Antique Pink or Antique Rose has this muted, time-worn quality to it that makes it really versatile and works beautifully across more tactile finishes like linens, velvets, and painted ceramics because it picks up texture in a really flattering way. But we're seeing a lot of it in fashion as well, particularly in transitional pieces. So things like knitwear, blouses, outerwear. It adds a bit of warmth without veering into too sweet a territory, which makes it really perfect for consumers who maybe want to move beyond neutrals that we mentioned before, but aren't quite ready for anything too bold just yet. Like caramel, one of the main drivers of this particular trend is a longing for something that has a bit more permanence and emotional connection. So unlike fast, flashy trends, Antique Rose has a bit more of a timeless look to it, where people can live with it for years and pass it down to others. It speaks more to the growing interest of slower living and pieces that have a bit of history to them, especially for younger consumers who are maybe having a bit more of commitment anxiety around bolder fashion choices or bolder interior choices.
Lovely.
And then next up on the list, we have Celadon Green, which is one of our more serene picks for 2026. And it taps directly into an ongoing desire for more calm, restorative spaces. So it's inspired by traditional East Asian ceramics, and it has this cool, washed quality to it that makes it feel both really intentional, but has a bit of luxury to it as well. And what makes it really interesting is how it behaves. So it's a really soft color that can sit in the background, but it's still interesting enough to really elevate a room. And we're seeing it already in paints, tiles, tableware, and decorative accessories, especially in matte or slightly textured finishes. And it pairs beautifully with natural woods or creamier neutrals, and it fits really seamlessly into more pared back, thoughtful interiors. That doesn't mean it can't complement a more dramatic scheme as well. It's in this market with saturated, trend-driven tones, Celadon feels a little more intentional. It's the kind of choice that signals a more considered approach to color. And it also responds beautifully to different lighting conditions, which I love, shifting subtly throughout the day, which adds a bit of complexity without demanding too much attention as well.
Lovely. And the last of the colour trends, another green, but very different this time.
Oh, very different. So while the first three colors are all about warmth and comfort and retreat, this color is quite literally the exact opposite. So it's sharp, it's energizing, and it's unapologetically bold. So what's really brilliant about this shade is that it's bright and modern without tipping into pure neon. And it's really intentionally unexpected, which is why it works really well as an accent piece. So textiles, glassware, or small accessories like earrings or brooches, especially those little flower earrings from the V&A up there as well. It's particularly striking when paired with quieter tones, so off-whites, soft grays, even warmer neutrals like caramel, but it adds a crisp contemporary edge wherever paired. But I will say for anybody who's maybe more maximalist, we expect to see bolder pairings too. So chartreuse with refreshing pinks or deep plums. But we also see it standing on its own for more of a full-on color moment as well. And it's the kind of color that represents optimism and creativity and risk-taking, especially when a lot of people are used to just playing it safe with their fashion and interiors. It offers an opportunity to be a little more bold, but in a controlled and sophisticated way. Plus, it's one of those colors that's really eye-catching and energetic, so it's perfect for any visual hooks for summer and spring stories.
Yeah, I love this one. And I've got a personal connection with this because our old Press Loft logo used to be this colour.
Oh, yes.
And the business before that, 0 to 1 PR. So I really love that one. So the first from me, I'm going to be covering some very interior specific trends in this bit. And the first one is wonderful. It's Rosso or Rossa Levanto, which is all about amazingly opulent marble design. So really a new take from the old white with the sort of grey or blue veining. You've now got this maroony red wine scents with these beautiful pale pink or white or even pale yellow veining in there, and it really stands out. Big sense of drama there, and it just is so wow on the page, and that's why I really think that this is going to be a huge topic, certainly in the kitchens, bathrooms, bedrooms titles for next year. It's just so interesting and it's so novel and new, which generally lends itself well to high performing PR pieces. It's expressive, it's high impact, it's opulent, and my money is very much on this one for being very big for 2026. Next up, another bold one in interiors, and it's lacquered finishes. So for me, when I first saw it, it was a little bit, it's a bit 90s, reminiscent of those IKEA tables that I've even got here. But the difference is you've not got your whites here, you've got bold colors like these lovely reds and greens that you can see, and also some more sculptural shapes, which makes them so interesting. Beautiful silhouettes, real talking points, and really bold after seasons of matte colors and matte finishes, very natural finishes. This is in big contrast to that. Feels very intentionally luxurious. So definitely one to watch. Will pop off the page. Absolutely wonderful for PR and for articles alike. And another bold one in interiors is tile drenching. So tiles are really coming to the forefront here in a variety of ways. So we've got drenching in one single color, and we've got drenching in different shades of the same color. And we've also got patterns as well within the same palette, which is really interesting and adds a bit more texture. And then you've got pure pattern tile drenching as well. So lots of different ways to use it. Very textural, very all encompassing. You're very immersed in that. So you've got lots of spa feeling to the bathrooms that you're looking at with tile drenching. And in the kitchen space, it's those real cutting edge, very, very modern kitchens that you're going to see doing this. So really fun one. Again, very vibrant, very fun to do. And I think it will do very well for next year. So the next one for me is both interiors and fashion, and polka dots are most definitely back. So in fashion, we're seeing more sophistication in that, probably a single palette, so quite a muted color, so browns, perhaps deep reds, very sophisticated Parisian chic quality with small micro white dots. But where we're seeing it be a bit more playful is in interiors, where you're getting more of these confetti style polka dots, which are more colourful, more fun and more playful. So two interpretations of this trend, both of which work well and are really versatile for next year. So back over to you now, Amy.
Perfect. So polka dots sort of transitions really nicely into this because it has a bit of fun and playfulness and femininity to it. Whereas this look, everything is romantic, is one of our bigger macro trends, I think, that brings it to life. So over 2025, we watched darker, moodier romance take hold. So wine red velvets, blackened metals, dramatic florals and silhouettes, all part of it being a Gothic revival that was fueled partially because Nosferatu at the beginning of the year, and then Frankenstein also returning to our screens in October. But for 2026, we're seeing that aesthetic soften overall. So we're moving away from the really cinematic darkness and more towards something that's lighter, a little more tactile, a lot more feminine as well. And it's very much in line with the romantic pastel washed glamour we saw in the Marie Antoinette exhibition at the V&A. We saw loads of their lovely products coming on the platform, which was beautiful, but they really encapsulate the real core of this trend. So This version of romance is all about texture and about movement and ease. So think draped fabrics, softened palettes, silhouettes that feel a little more fluid rather than structured. And it's a bit of a pushback against really strict, crisp minimalism that dominated for quite a while. But it's also a bit of a pushback against that heavy drama of the autumn winter 25 season. So instead of strict lines or dark intensity, this looks gives us a little bit of breathing room for the new year, I think. And what makes it really interesting is how it reconnects us with femininity in a way that feels really confident rather than fragile. So softness is being reclaimed as a form of self-care and authenticity. And it also aligns beautifully with the resurgence of more tactile craft skills like embroidery, crochet, natural dyeing, things that encourage you to slow down and reconnect with the things you're making by hand. And any brands that offer those kind of products, people are in real demand for those tactile finishes, with whether that's in their outfits and in their wardrobe or in their home as well.
Lovely. And can I ask you why everything is romantic? What's the meaning behind the title?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. It's based on a Charlie XCX song that came out a little while ago, but it's had a bit of resurgence because in the new year, the Wuthering Heights movie is coming out, and that particular song has had a full renaissance moment, even though it's not that old to begin with anyway, because of its really dramatic cinematic backing track to it as well. It's been paired with posts on TikTok and Instagram that are connecting with femininity, your community, the things you love in your life as well. So it felt like the perfect pairing for this trend.
Love it. Great. Thank you. And next up from you.
Next is one of my favorites, and it's Art Nouveau, which has been steadily resurfacing across interiors, fashion, and even in some packaging I've seen as well. So the style originally was like a rejection to rigid academic design back in the 1910s and 20s. And this style was originally celebrating sinuous lines, botanical motifs, and the natural world and all of its movement and detail. And that connection is exactly why it's coming to the surface again in 2026. So, as our world becomes a lot more digital and increasingly AI led, there's a growing desire for design that feels really organic, human, and handmade. And Art Nouveau taps into that directly with flowing lines, leaf like curves, and natural forms that bring softness and emotion back into spaces that have maybe been a little too streamlined or stripped back in recent years. So we're seeing this come through in things like structural lighting, vine-like metalwork, marbled glassware, and even hand-drawn illustrations for that matcha look, as well as in fashion through things like curved seams, gilded accessories, and delicate applique details. And what makes it really modern as opposed to old-fashioned is how it's being used. So it's not necessarily a full period recreation, but it's more weaving in expressive accents into more contemporary settings, and it brings elegance and a sense of artistry without overwhelming the overall look. So next up we have Sunday Supper Club, which is one of my favorites. And it really captures a behavioral shift that we've been seeing on how we host and gather people. We've seen it a little bit earlier because we've had a few trends on site like at-home cafe, which was sort of the starting point for this, but it's definitely evolved into something larger scale. So over the last couple of years, there's been this move towards slow, intentional socializing, the kind where atmosphere matters just as much as the food or the decoration that you have out. So it's essentially seeing hosting as more of a love language. We're seeing generous tablescapes, tactile stoneware, soft lighting, handwritten menus, linen napkins, all these little pieces that come together to make shared meals feel more special rather than overly performative. It's not about a picture perfect dinner party anymore. It's more about presence, comfort, and really connecting with the people you're with. So it sits beautifully within this wider movement we've been seeing towards slower living, which we nodded to in some of our earlier trends. People are craving more meaningful, more intimate moments, and it's part of a result of, say, social exhaustion overall and digital overload, especially in the post-pandemic society. And the ritual of cooking for others, setting a beautiful table, and sitting down without phones is so simple, and yet it's something many of us have strayed away from in recent years. So we're seeing a lot of younger hosts embracing this trend in particular. They're sort of borrowing that old formality of bringing out the good tableware and cloth napkins and table or candle holders and whatnot, but it's stripping away the stuffiness of keeping it for those special occasions. Every day is a special occasion with this trend, and the result is gatherings that feel both elevated and really comfortable.
Love it. I absolutely love this one. I think the other sort of aesthetic side of the photography is this lovely golden light that's coming in, this golden hue of the midsummer night's dream kind of esque, but with a more of a boho feel. I mean, just absolutely love this one. I think it's going to be massive in the spring, particularly the summertime
Definitely.
articles around outdoor entertaining, outdoor dining. It's just stunning. Okay, so next one from you.
Oh, yes. So one more from me for the time being would be A Daily Dose of Whimsy. And this is also one of my favorites on the list. And it's partially because it's tapping into this overall desire for spaces and wardrobes to feel a little more playful, personal, and just add a touch of magic into the day to day. So obviously, we've had a few years of very serious, hyper curated design, but people are really craving touches that bring lightness back into their everyday. And this trend is very much rooted in self-expression. So in interiors, that means characterful accents like sculptural candle holders, hand-painted ceramics, maybe some storybook inspired motifs, as well as tiny, delightful pieces that will really just elevate any corner of a room wherever they're placed. But we are also seeing this attitude come through in fashion as well. So we've seen a lot of bows recently and charms. We actually made a note of that in our Christmas forecast as well. Bag charms, charm bracelets, charm necklaces. That seems to play a role in this as well, but alongside it, we're seeing things like micro embroidery, fun jewelry, playful prints, and silhouettes that just add a little more humor and fun. It's a reminder that design doesn't always need to be super serious to still be sophisticated. And what's driving this is a collective pushback against perfectionism, which again, we've noted in a few of our previous trends. So consumers want homes and wardrobes that feel lived in and feel true to them rather than polished for show. So whimsy gives permission to experiment, to add personality, lean into joy, and just choose pieces that spark delight rather than maybe making sense on paper. It's very much about the individual.
Yeah, I think that micro embroidery particularly is really interesting and fun. We could see it a lot last summer emerging in more of the early adopters in fashion, but you're seeing it really play out now in interiors and more widely in fashion. So I think this is going to be very, very big. Early 2026 to mid 2026, that micro embroidery particularly. Lovely, thank you. So next for me is the chroma stripes. So we had a lot of fun putting this together because we saw that stripes have been huge in 2025, but mainly in quite regimented widths, all consistent widths, paired with a bright color with white or off-white. And what we're seeing for next year is a slightly different take on it. So you're seeing different widths of stripes put together in some instances, and you're also seeing only bold colors being put together as well, or a combination of those two things. And what I think will be coming next is also bringing shapes into that. So perhaps chevrons will be coming in. So this is so strong. It's really bold, another really bold one, and very versatile across fashion and interiors. So it's still got a playful element, but it's even bolder than last year and a little bit more serious, I suppose. But the other side of it is preppy. I think that's the other word we have very much attributed it to this. And some of them, particularly that shirt there that you can see in the middle, has this preppy element. So very much for press releases, articles, you might want to be using that term over the chroma stripes. So preppy stripes over chroma stripes. But either way, stripes in all their glory will be big next year. And then another one, which is incredibly bold and very structured, is this houndstooth and harlequin style that we can see again very heavily in fashion and also across interiors, more for those early adopters, very bold pieces. There's such a big appetite for patterns in homeware and fashion that we saw last year and will very much carry on with these new patterns for next year. We've seen houndstooth come in this winter. It will likely stay in and maybe be even bigger for next winter is our prediction there. The lovely thing about this, although they're very traditional patterns, they somehow don't feel overly traditional. They're very much a modern interpretation of that. And that's probably going to be the blending of the colors that are being used, this almost 70s style palette mixed with very heritage prints. And it's in real contrast to some of your trends, Amy, around the romantic trends and the Art Nouveau. This is very sharply different and really different for 2026. And so the last one on the list today from you, Amy, is modern heritage.
So to wrap up the forecast, we're sort of looking into this what ties together this wider heritage story that we've been seeing across a few of our different trends. So when trend cycles start to feel quite relentless, especially today where they pop up and die out in like a couple of days, there's something really grounding about returning to looks that don't demand constant reinvention, and that's exactly what this trend captures. So we're seeing a renewed love for classic design cues or with a softer, more relaxed touch rather than really, really strict, sharp tailoring. So think traditional checks and plaids with updated palettes, same with the harlequin and houndstooth that we mentioned just before. Structured bags and silk scarves in fashion. And then when it comes to interiors, we're seeing warm woods, brass accents, and heirloom style pieces, but they're made for practical everyday use. It's polished, but it still feels really approachable for a modern day consumer. And the thread running through several of this year's trends is the desire for designs that feel lasting rather than fleeting. And modern heritage really taps directly into that. It's in a world saturated with a lot of quick fire trends and micro trends, heritage style offers a way to anchor our homes and wardrobes in something that's a little more enduring without feeling rigid or dated. It reflects a growing desire for quality, intention, and pieces that genuinely feel like they'll last you, which is why we're actually seeing a lot of people going back to visible mending, furniture restoration, and more of that buy it for life mindset when it comes to new purchases. And it's a return to pieces that feel steady and reassuring, offering a sense of calm continuity in a fast-moving design landscape. So it's definitely one to keep on your radar.
Love it. Thank you so much, Amy. They were really fun to put together, really well researched as well. So great. So what's next? If you know these trends, what to do next with them? So everyone, please do sign up to our free trend alerts on the site at pressloft.com/app/trends. And then if you're a client, make sure you're uploading any relevant images to Pressloft. Make sure for all of your images, you're adding the relevant trend keywords. Make sure they are relevant to the products. And make sure you've got a variety of both cutouts and lifestyles to fit with any requirement of the journalist for their articles. Now, the other interesting way you can use these trends is in the styling of your shoots. So maybe the accessories in a certain color, or adding some pillows in a houndstooth trend, even if you've got a regular brown sofa. There are very much strong ways that you can bring in trends into your shoots. Desenio do this superbly. They have a huge variety of prints, but their shoots and their designs of their shoots very much call on a variety of trends. It makes their products very versatile, and as a result, they get a huge amount of press coverage via the site. Also, send out press releases. If you have relevant products that fit these bills, make sure you're sending out a press release, but absolutely ensure that that trend is mentioned in the subject heading of the press release. So it's very, very clear to journalists. They get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of press releases a week. So you need to make sure it's jumping out at them. And to add a bit of substance and more credibility into those press releases, do add expert quotes from someone that's senior in the company with commentary around that trend and the interpretation of it. It's ready-made quotes for those journalists to use in articles, or if they don't use ready-made quotes, they then know to come back to you to ask for exclusive quotes for those articles. So it can really push your coverage to the next level. So if you're watching this on Pressloft, you can download the PDF of the trend report below. If you're not watching it on Pressloft, go to pressloft.com/app/videos, find the video, then underneath this, you'll find the free PDF to download. But thank you so much, Amy, for all of your incredible research. It's been so detailed and well thought through. I've really loved putting it together and reading through it as well with you.
Thank you so much for going through it all with me. And like we said, feel free to download the report, share it with your colleagues, and let us know what you think as well.